Okay, welcome back. I hope all of you guys are doing good out there. This is section 4.5 notes. Now this is what we had just barely started, just before the end, school got canceled. We had just done a couple of lessons on this, so this is kind of new to you guys, but we have worked on it. So let's go through and look at some of these examples. This first one, we have two systems of equations. Now up until this point, we have graphed the systems of equations and found the point where they crossed on a graph. And then that's the solution. This is a different way of solving the same exact thing. So instead of graphing these two equations, like when we graph these equations, we would have to either rewrite them and solve them for y, or we would have to find the intercepts, your x and y intercepts, and graph those, or do a table of values. But we can also solve these in a completely different way. And remember, we went through steps. So step one to solve these is to check and make sure that you have complete let's go back a step. Standard form was the first step. Make sure that they are all written, both equations are written in standard form. And standard form is ax plus by equals c. So pretty much just saying both variables are on the left-hand side of the equation and just a constant is on the right-hand side. Okay, then step two is to make sure that there is a set of complete opposites. Complete opposites. So in this case, our y's. So let's look at our x's. We have 4x and negative 3x. So those aren't even close to being the same opposite. But then look at our y's. We have a plus 3y and a minus 3y. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So our y's are a set of complete opposites. So we're good with that. Then the next step that we're going to do is we are going to add down. All right, so to add down, we're going to write our equations together. So 4x plus 3y equals negative 3. And then right underneath, I'm going to line up my variables. So negative 3x minus 3y equals 0. Now I've got everything lined up very, very nicely. And I can draw a line underneath. And then we are going to add down. So 4x, you can use a calculator if you need to. 4x plus negative 3x, or remember back to our birds and worms. If our positive numbers are our birds, or positives were worms. So if our positive numbers are our worms, negative numbers are our birds, what would we have left over? Well, we would have one worm left over. And then all of these are going to cancel out. So we will have no y's left at all. Then we have negative 3 plus 0. Anything plus 0 is still itself, so we get a negative 3. So we have 1x equals negative 3. But remember, 1 is our multiplicative identity, so 1 times x is just x, and therefore we have x equals negative 3. Now that's part of our answer. We can actually write that in if you want. So we can put negative 3 in here, and now we need to solve for y. So will be step 4, is to solve for y. Or the other variable, I guess we should say. Solve for the other variable. What happened, Oakley? The calf? While you were carrying all the milk. Oh dear. Okay, so now we're going to solve for the other variable, which in this case is y. So we need to plug in what we know, what we just found out, what we just discovered, that x equals negative 3. So if x equals negative 3, we're going to rewrite 4 times negative 3 plus 3y equals negative 3. Okay, so we have negative 12 plus 3y equals negative 3. Now I'm running out of room here. What are we going to do? Let's go right here. I think we can squeeze out enough room. So we have negative 12 plus 3y and I need to solve for y, so I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Remember to work on what's farthest away from that variable on the same side. So add 12 to both sides. Then we're going to have 3y and negative 3 plus 12. If you want to go back to that birds and worms method, we've got 3 birds, 12 worms. So what are we going to have left over when every bird gets a worm? Then we are going to have 9 worms left over. Okay, the 3 is being multiplied to the y. So to undo that multiplication, we have to divide. 3 divided by 3 will cancel to 1y. And then we have 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So final answer for this one is negative 3, 3. And then to check that, final step would be to check. When you check, then we need to go back and plug. Excuse me. We need to plug in what we found. So negative 3 in for x, because that's what we said x was. Then plug 3 in for y. So you'll notice I took this first equation right here. I plugged in what we found for x, plugged in what we found for y, and then wrote it out. So that's going to give me negative 12 plus 9 is equal to negative 3. And yes, that is correct. We have 12 birds, 9 worms. We're going to end up with 3 birds left with no worms. So there you go. That is number 1. And we'll move on to number 2 and then continue our video. All right, number 2, we have, first thing we need to check is to see if both equations are in standard form. And they are. They're both in the ax plus by equals c format. And we do have complete opposites. The y's, we have a negative y and a positive y. And so those are complete opposite, perfect opposites, so we're good there. So let's rewrite our equations. I'm going to start up a little bit more this time. So we have negative 3x minus y equals 14. And then we have negative 2x plus y equals 6. So we're going to draw a line underneath them. Make sure you line up your variables perfectly. And then we are going to add them down. So we have negative 3x and negative 2x. So these are all birds. So we're going to end up with negative 5x. So we have 5 birds because none of them had any worms. Couldn't leave. So we have a negative y, positive y. Those cancel each other. So we have no y's at all. And then 14 plus 6 is 20. Okay. Just a second. Okay, I am back. All right, so we want to solve for this x variable. So negative 5 is being multiplied to x. Remember, we're only going to do one opposite because it's the multiplication that is connecting the negative 5 and the x. We want to undo that connection, which is going to be division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 5. If we do it to that side, we've got to do it to this side. And then we end up with x equals negative 4. So we can go ahead and put that right in here to this box. We know that x equals negative 4. Now we need to solve for y. So to solve for y, I'm going to pick just one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. Let's go ahead and choose the second one. And we'll have negative 2x plus y equals 6. And then we can plug in this x equals negative 4. So we have negative 2. And then instead of writing x, we're going to write negative 4. Plus y equals 6. Whoa. There we go. So negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So we have 8 plus y equals 6. And then subtract 8 from both sides. And we end up with y equals negative 2. And then that's our final answer. X equals negative 4, y equals negative 2. Let's see, I think we have time to get one more in. Number 3. So we have two equations again. Solve the system of equations by elimination. Ax plus by equals c. They're both in the standard format, so we're good there. Let's check and see if we have complete opposites. Our x's are not complete opposites, but our y's are. We have a plus 2y and a minus 2y. So those, when we add them, are going to cancel out. So that's perfect. So let's go ahead and rewrite these equations. We have negative 4x plus 2y equals 8, and 3x minus 2y equals negative 8. So I notice I'm being very careful about lining up my variables exactly. That'll make it a lot easier for us to add. Then draw your line and add down. So negative 4x plus 3y is going to be a negative 1x. Our y's cancel. Then we have 8 and negative 8. Now don't be scared when you get a 0 here. It is okay to get 0. We can treat 0 like a number. So then we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. And you can even do this on your calculator if you're nervous about using that 0. 0 divided by negative 1 is just 0. So that is part of our answer. So x equals 0. So put that 0 in for the 0 position, or the x answer. All right, next one. We have x equals 0. So let's use the second equation. That one has a few less negatives. Well, I guess not really, does it? It just looks nicer to me. So 3x minus 2y equals negative 8. And then we know that x equals 0, so we're going to plug that in. So we have 3 times 0 minus 2y equals negative 8. So 3 times 0 is going to be 0, which is nothing. So that is going to be gone. So we have minus 2y equals negative 8. And then divide both sides by negative 2. And we end up with, let's see, our negatives are going to cancel out here, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we end up with y equals 4. So when we end up having a 0 on this right-hand side, don't get worried about that. It's okay. You can leave the 0 there and use it as a number. Okay? All right, let's do one more. Okay, this will be our last one for this video. So again, written in the correct format, we do have opposites of our y's. So we have 1x plus 3y equals 3, and negative 3x minus 3y equals negative 3. All right, so add those down. Our y's are going to cancel. We will end up with negative 2x here. And over here on the right-hand side, we're going to end up with a 0 again. It's okay. We can leave that 0 there. Okay. So 0 divided by negative 2 is still 0, so we end up with x equals 0. Now I'm going to take my first equation, plug in that x value that we just found. So 1 times 0 plus 3y equals 3. Now 1 times 0, that's 0. So 0, we don't need to use a 0. We can use that 0 if we have to keep it there, but it's nothing. So we can also cancel it out. So we end up with 3y equals 3. Divide both sides by 3, and we get y equals 1. So we end up with x equals 0, y equals 1, and we are done with number 4. So good luck with this assignment. I'd like you guys to work really hard, try to get through at least those first 4 questions and get some practice in there. And email me if you have any questions.